You're listening to the Bromsgrove Standard Podcast because you have impeccable taste.
Very warm welcome to this week's Bromsgrove and Droitwich Standard Podcast with me, Tristan Harris. It was a very busy election night last night and a resounding one for the Conservative Party as they took 365 of the 650 seats on offer, giving them an 80-seat majority. Next were Labour on 203, third the SNP, which took 48 of the 59 in Scotland. It was a bad night for the Liberal Democrats, who were hoping to benefit from the Remain vote with their policy on revoking Article 50 and cancelling Brexit. But they finished on 11 seats. That was one less than they had before the polls opened, and it was worse still for leader Jo Swinson, losing her seat to the SNP. The DUP had 8 seats after the poll, down 2, and 15 went to the other parties, including 7 for Sinn Féin, 4 for Plaid Cymru, 2 for the SDLP and 1 each for the Green Party and the Alliance Party. We were in Bromsgrove, where Sajid Javid increased his sizeable majority by 6,533 votes to a lead of more than 23,000 over Labour's Rory Shannon. Liberal Democrat Dr David Nicholl finished third on 6,779 and the Green Party's Kevin White had 1,783. I caught up with Sajid Javid after the declaration and this is what he had to say.
Congratulations, Sajid, on the victory tonight. You must be delighted.
I'm absolutely thrilled with obviously nationally the results still coming through, but here in Bromsgrove it's a very strong mandate. I think the biggest majority it seems certainly I've ever had, and probably one of the biggest ever here in Bromsgrove. But it's really good to be backed by so many people, and you can never take anything for granted. And I'm going to go out there and do my very best.
So, what do you think that shows, the increase in majority?
I think here in Bromsgrove what it showed, and I certainly found this campaigning on the doorsteps, that people were fed up with the sort of arguments in Parliament non-stop, the paralysis. They want to see us moving on as a country, and they've listened to the sort of mandates that were put forward by all the major political parties, and they have here in Bromsgrove accepted that the Conservatives rightly are offering the best way forward, get Brexit done but with a deal, which is fantastic, but also to focus on the priorities that they have, but also the economic argument. And as Chancellor, I'm always very interested in that. And they want to know how things are going to be paid for. And when it came to Labour in particular, I think Labour took people for fools and pretended that that you could just pay for things, some kind of magic money tree that doesn't exist. And people have rejected that argument.
And what about this? Because I know you're very keen personally to get on with the hospitals, the nurses, the education funding, the policing and everything. Yeah. And obviously there's been a lot about that, and whether all that can be delivered and will be delivered by the Conservative government. What's your message about these services that have been promised?
Well, this is what we said is exactly what we're going to do. And so I've talked often about the people's priorities, and it is healthcare and our great NHS, and to make sure it gets all the funding that it needs to give us the service that we all rely on. More police on the streets here in Bromsgrove and West Mercia. More broadly, we've already started to get more police officers, and I think people want to see that investment continue, but also investment in schools. In Worcestershire in particular, we have not always got the fairest share of funding for schools, and that's changing. We want to level up, and these 3 areas, your NHS, policing, schools, are the ones that were I found the most important on the doorstep, and people appreciated that that's what we were focusing on.
Sajid, it's great to see you back in Bromsgrove.
Thank you.
I know you spend a lot of time in London. You are very high up in office. What would you like to say to the people of Bromsgrove that are still supporting you?
First of all, I would like to thank them for the support that they have given me today. It's an incredible mandate, and it's the 4th time I've been elected here, and it's been the privilege of my life so far. And as you say, yes, I have to spend time in London, of course, to do my job in Parliament, but also in the government. But the only reason I can do that is because the people of Bromsgrove have backed me in the first place, and that's something I never take for granted.
And next year you'll be going into your 10th year as the MP for Bromsgrove. What would you like to see happen in the town now?
Well, there's a lot that's been achieved in Bromsgrove in those 10 years. I'm incredibly proud of that. And I think that's actually helped in this campaign, because I found going out the doorstep, more and more people had met me, or they'd communicated with me either through email or phone. And the feedback I got has always, thankfully, been positive. But people know that if you want to get things done for your town as well as for your country, you need that sort of active MP that will listen to you and always try his very best.
Absolutely. And finally, what's the plan for tomorrow? Is it back to London or is it a pint in the local boozer?
Well, I think I'm going to be heading back to London in a few hours' time because there'll be work. Hopefully, if the projections are confirmed, Boris Johnson will have to form a government. There will be a great government, but hopefully I might have a role in that government, a continued role, and I want to make sure that we can get cracking with the manifesto that we'd set out to the British people.
Are you confident that you're going to retain your role?
Well, I don't take anything for granted.
Thank you, Nick. I just wanted to get your reaction to your victory and also what Bromsgrove really means to you as a constituency.
Well, again, you're thrilled with the mandate I've been given by local people, and for me, it always begins with Bromsgrove. And people have said to me, and including this campaign on the doorstep, you're busy, obviously, as Chancellor. I've had other roles in government that have always been a privilege to have that role. But if I'm not elected first and foremost here in Bromsgrove, there's nothing to do on the national stage, and that's why Bromsgrove always comes first.
Yeah, and obviously now that you've been elected, obviously Brexit is now the main priority. Is that something that you're going to get straight on board with?
I think it's fair to say it's probably the most immediate priority in the next few weeks, because one of the things that we want to do is to sort of move beyond that, and the way you do that is by delivering on the Brexit vote originally. We're going to do that with our deal, and as we said during the election campaign, that we will begin the process of the exit before Christmas, complete it certainly by the end of January.
Sajid Javid there, who's expected to resume his role as Chancellor. Bearing in mind, Boris Johnson did say that before the election, so we'll watch this space and see what happens with Brexit and the new government, as it tries to take Britain forward. Back to Bromsgrove last night, Rory, Shannon, the Labour candidate, praised the election process, and he thanked all the candidates for conducting politics in how it should be done. He said it was a very fair campaign. They were thoughts echoed from what Sajid had said as well. They all agreed it was a nice, fair fight here in Bromsgrove. Dr. David Nicholl, he said, as we go forward, it was important that the Conservatives were held to account over the promises about new hospitals and other spending pledges. He also stressed the importance of keeping the United Kingdom together in light of Brexit and the Irish border and the situation over there. In other areas, Nigel Huddleston was returned in mid-Worcestershire, which covers Droitwich, of course. He polled 37,452, 28,000 more than the Labour candidate Helen Russell. She finished on 9,408, with Margaret Rowley, the Liberal Democrat, on 6,474. The Green Party's Sue Howarth received 2,177, and the Monster Raving Looney Party candidate Barmy Brockman, he was fourth on 638. It was a bad night in Northfield for Labour's Richard Burden, who had held the seat there for 27 years. He's a columnist as well with the Standard, with his Westminster Diaries, so sad times there. He had a majority of 4,667 going into this election, and despite polling 18,317, he was beaten by Conservative Gary Sambrook, who notched up 19,957. So he thanked, Richard Burden thanked all the people from Northfield for supporting him over the years, and said they've been fantastic, and thanked all those, of course, who voted for him yesterday. We've got more information and reaction on our Bromsgrove Standard and droitwichstandard.co.uk websites. In other news this week, we've got the developer responsible for the Raven Hotel in Droitwich pledging to start work early next year on the historic building. Malvern Homes Limited had permission to build 51 homes in the building, but there were concerns about the listed part falling into a state of disrepair a couple of months back. The developer has given reassurances over that it will be protected and restored to its former glory. Again, we've got reaction on our droitwichstandard.co.uk website, and from Droitwich Means Business as well, the group which campaigns to put Droitwich on the map. They're backing the plans there. The other big story in this week is community housing project Route CIC. It's based up north, but it's looking across all councils in England and appealing for owners of empty and dilapidated homes in Bromsgrove and Droitwich to get in in touch so that these properties can also be restored to their former glory and used to address the area's housing crisis. That story is available on our websites and in this week's paper, where there are plenty of other pieces as well, plenty of Christmas stuff and other pieces. Well, that's about it. I'm going to keep it short this week. Remember, you can stay up to date on our websites, bromsgrovestandard.co.uk and droitwichstandard.co.uk. Follow us on social media. We've got pages on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. That's where all the conversation takes place. And remember, if you want something covered in the paper, on the website or on this podcast, if you think it's something that we would be interested in, you can get in touch. Editor at bromsgrovestandard.co.uk or editor at droitwichstandard.co.uk. I'm off to catch up on some much needed sleep after last night's election. I think the Bromsgrove result was called about 3 o'clock. By the time I put all the copy online and stuff, it was about 5. So we'll be back next week with a Christmas special. Hopefully I'll be rested and recuperated by then. A Christmas special podcast next week. All that's left to say, make sure you have plenty of festive fun and have a good week.